Hello, friends. Welcome back for another part of our series of pain. Really just our ultra supreme max difficulty run. So we are progressing on here. If this is your first time, or if you just want a refresher, here are the rules. I have to play on the hardest asteroids. I have to get every single achievement. I have to play on what are supposed to be the worst seeds based upon traits and that kind of stuff. Lots of other rules we're supposed to stick by, but yeah. Let's continue on after our last video where we got our Saturn critter traps up, and we're producing a pretty good amount of hydrogen so far, but we are out of seeds, so I am just going to continue digging and looking for more seeds. There's one right here. We can definitely fill this out quite a bit, and then we'll probably build another setup next to another Beeta hive if we need more. Or, I'm not 100% sure how many this could support. I feel like it could support a lot, so I might just extend this out a little further just to make it all dependent on one Beeta hive, because these will spawn once per day. So I guess if we could just do one and not have to spawn, or rather use many, that would be fine. Then we can leave the rest of them for their refining and everything else that they do, so yeah, they can just kind of hang out. Actually, there's two more down here too. Wow. Alright. So the plan for this video, I think the first thing we need to do is get our power situation stable, both here and on the other asteroid. So we can just set up something really quickly right now. But there are two achievements that I kind of want to start working towards in this video and probably the next one that just kind of take forever. We're going to set up first a hydrogen generator. We can set up a couple probably. Game is definitely freezing because it's auto-saving. How dare you conveniently do that for me? So we could set up a few of them just like this, and then we can just run a wire in there. But the one thing that I wanted... Oh, I can't fit all three of them. I definitely wanted to get the station that will basically increase their power output. But there's also an achievement for this, so maybe we'll just do two, and we can put another one somewhere else. We will eventually get the achievement for this, but also it'll be pretty handy considering I'm going to stop feeding these plug slugs since I don't want to waste any more metal. We're going to be very dependent on the power to be hydrogen here, so I guess actually, where does this make sense? Let's put the station over here on the right. Let me just rebuild this like 20 times. How about that? Alright. So let's put down just a couple of hydrogen generators, and then we already have hydrogen that's flowing out of here. So we need to make sure it's after the two sources. So here's one, and then a second one if we happen to get any from these plug slugs anymore. And then we can just kind of come up and run these over to the hydrogen generators. These are going to get a little bit warm. I'll worry about cooling at some point. I'm not too worried about it right now. But once this starts to get a little bit warmer, we'll probably run some of these pipes that are coming from this or from our... cold salt slush geyser. Sorry, cool salt slush geyser. How dare I insult it like that? But yeah, we will probably run those through here just to cool things down. In the meantime, we also need to make sure that we're not just burning hydrogen constantly, so we'll probably want to hook this up to a smart battery, like that, and then just run some automation wire over. So pretty straightforward setup, but we're going to do something way bigger than this. Since we're going to have so much hydrogen eventually, we are going to build out a huge hydrogen power setup and just have all of this be hydrogen. But also, we have been quietly prepping a massive cooling setup as well. So we're going to do a couple things in this video. First of all, we just need a lot of infrastructure. We need a lot of cooling, we need a lot of power for these next couple phases of the game. So we might as well do it now. But I'm also going to start working on getting some more seed mutations. There is an achievement here, and that's one of the two that I'm going to start chasing in the next little bit. Two of them that take a really long time is this one, basically analyzing every type of seed. The only one I don't think we have access to right now is gas grass. We're going to need to get that from another asteroid. That one and Mine the Gap both take forever, as far as I understand. So we will definitely start focusing on those two in the next couple of videos, just because we're going to need a long lead time. And I don't want a video to be like 400 cycles or something while I'm doing all these. So we're just going to have to split it up. Here's the tune-ups on power generators, which we're going to get on both asteroids. So yeah, a couple things we can start shooting for. We will build out this setup as well. I think we could probably do that now. because I don't think there's a reason to wait. So we will have our hydrogen going on the other asteroid. That'll just kind of get on its own here. Oh, we need to hook up power. There we go. Yeah, plug 'em in. Alright. So on this asteroid, I've been quietly also making a little bit of steel just so that we can get this started. A little bit, and by that I mean 9 tons. We are going to load this up with a handful of aqua tuners. I'm just going to build way too much right now, knowing that I can rewire these eventually. So I'm not really sure how many I'm going to need, but we'll kind of walk through the setup that I'm planning on doing here. One of which is we need to continue to produce a lot of refined metals. And right now, the water that's up here has been basically cooling and using coolant for this metal refinery. And it's sitting at a pretty high temperature, and I don't want that anymore. So we need a better setup for this, and I'm just going to set it up next to all of my cooling equipment. So we'll kind of run through the setup here. I did show this in my spaced out walkthrough series, but I'm going to show it again here because it's a pretty cool setup, I think. But yeah, we'll kind of just talk through that really fast. So we have a metal refinery. We'll plop it down, sure, right here. The metal refinery obviously needs some kind of coolant, but what I'm going to do with that coolant is I'm going to store it down here and with the aqua tuners because it's going to get very hot, and I am okay with that. I want it to cool down by virtue of being in the steam so that we use as much energy as possible into this steam, and then we can route the pipes up through to our metal refinery. We could probably do this a little bit cleaner, so let's actually move this over to the side. So we could route the pipes up through here and go up into our metal refinery, but we could have it just kind of chill down here in some radiant pipes and give as much energy as possible to the steam. So if I were to do something like this, does this make sense? Maybe not. Let's do something like this. There. So if we do something like that, then we'll have it come back down and around and go back into the tank like this. That probably doesn't make a lot of sense, and we also need to disconnect this part. So once we have it in here, we're just going to set up something that is going to keep the liquid here until we're sure that it's okay to pass. So good old liquid shutoff. It sounds like a brand, like a cleaning brand or something. You need liquid shutoff. Alright, so what we're going to need is a thermosensor for our liquid pipe, just to see what the temperature is of whatever's sitting right here. And assuming it's a low enough temperature, I'll allow it to go back into the metal refinery. It'll get really hot, and then it'll go back down into this tank. What I'm going to use for this, though, is I'm going to use this oil. The oil has a really high boiling point, all things considered. Or vaporization point. I guess they're the same word. I don't know if there's technically a difference between those two, but I'm pretty sure they're the same. So as long as we wait until it's at, like, I don't know, 180 or so, then we'll be using all of the heat that this generates to heat up our steam down here. And we won't need to do anything crazy like have our duplicants in suits and make everything out of steel and whatever. They can still work in this cooler environment, but most of the heat that gets generated from this can kind of sit down here. The same thing goes for a glass forge. So if we get a glass forge, where is this? There we go. If we put it like here, so we can put some shipping in between these, you could do the same thing with the glass, where you just route the glass down through the steam and kind of give as much of the heat as possible to the steam. Let me actually put a aqua tuner in between these two. So if we have an area for the glass where it kind of just sits on some conveyor rails, you could kind of snake it through like this and then do the same thing with a conveyor shutoff and not let it through until it gets really hot. Or sorry, until it cools down, because it's going to go in there very hot. So yeah, you could do a couple things like this that I think would be useful. You could actually just have the glass forge ship straight down and drop into here and then have a auto sweeper load it for you. So pretty fancy setup here, but it's basically going to get the best of both worlds in terms of like having these machines out somewhere that my duplicants don't need suits to actually use them, but a majority of the heat is going to be put down into the steam that eventually gets created here. And then the rest of this we can kind of build out with some aqua tuners and stuff like that. I guess we'll just put 3. I don't really know how many I'm going to put in here, but this is probably fine. Then this middle layer can just be a whole bunch of steam turbines to keep things cooled down. So we'll just use our cobalt since it's very free. Oh, I can't fit the last one. Debating whether to put a 5th one in here. Am I going to need it? Let's just chance it and not do it. We should be fine. Alright, so if we have something like this, I'll get this all fleshed out. We'll get our power flowing here over on the other asteroid. Then we'll come back and we will hopefully have more of this bottom area dug out so that we can make our Saturn critter trap setup bigger. You can see the Betas still spawn every day, by the way, and then they should get snatched up if there was another one here, but we just need more seeds. And then, yeah, the hydrogen will basically power all of that stuff that we just put down because this is a ridiculous amount of power usage in this small little area. So, yeah, we'll kind of flesh this out over time. Actually, I'm going to move this glass forge a little bit. I'll kind of build this in a little bit more efficient way, just so we have like a kiln and a rock crusher all in the right spot too. And then the glass probably just come down and drop in here. But yeah, we'll kind of build this all out. We'll get it up and running. And we'll get our hydrogen going here in just a second, and then we'll move on to the other things since we should have sufficient cooling to do all the silly stuff we want to do. Alright, quick little progress update. We need to take another duplicate just because this is taking too long. Alright, whoever's on the left, here we go. Yeah, we're bound to get some more of these pretty bad ones. Anemix is one of the worst, at least at first, just because they take so long to do everything. This is also a little sneaky with how risky it is for these duplicates. Because they are so slow, sometimes they are very high risk for suffocating. So for Amari, we're going to probably need to do some weird stuff. Actually, do we already have an Amari? I guess I'll print and I'll find out afterward. But yeah, this is one of those instances where this duplicate kind of scares me. So I might need to have them banned from doing a bunch of stuff. We already have one. No, I guess we don't. So Amari, we're going to ban from a bunch of the further tasks. We're probably just going to let him do like operating and farming and stuff like that. I'm going to ban him from doing building and digging and those kinds of things. Supplying, storing, those might take him to some scary places. Everything else I think is okay. Maybe tiding we should also ban. Yeah, I think we'll need to do something like this so that Amari kind of just stays in a small area while he's still getting his athletics up. But for right now, hilarious that we were like, hey, we need to take a duplicate because things are going too slow. And then we take the slowest duplicate possible. So I guess we'll take another one when it comes around. I'm not too worried about food. So yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on him until he gets his athletics up. Our setup for cooling is coming up here. I did add a 5th steam turbine, and I'm going to extend it by one more tile. I'm going to add another aqua tuner. This aqua tuner will kind of be like the utility one, just in case we need anything specific cooled. The rest of them are just going to be to cool this pool of ethanol. I'm like, what's the name of this liquid? I don't know, ethanol, sure. A couple other little projects that are going on here is I want to make some like water regulation stuff. This did not work out like I expected. It just got too hot because this doesn't produce enough. So I'm going to create some regulators and start pumping out some water to fill up these tanks. Because we do need to fill up these tanks with polluted water, which will kind of be our mechanism for circulating stuff around. I do at least want to cool this a little bit before we start getting our hydrogen setup going, because we do need to cool all these hydrogen generators. They're going to generate a lot of heat, and I need to be able to cool them down before we get to that point. Actually, you know what we could do? We could just cool it with this pool for right now while we're waiting. So we might as well get that going. Yeah, let's do that, because we do have an idle tank of water here that could be used for cooling. I just need to set up all the pipes and stuff to get it cooled. So let's start thinking about this, actually. So in here, the biggest thing that I want to do with this is I want to set up something that is going to make this a room that we can do tune-ups in, just like we did here. So I want to set up a station that is to build these little chips that get attached onto here. It does use a little bit of refined metal, but that's fine. And I want to work towards that achievement. I probably won't in the long term keep those up for these rooms, but at least for the time being, I do want to get those set up in a way that my duplicates can just come in here and get those running, and then longer term, I guess we'll see. I also really want to, in the scope of this video, take these other metal volcanoes. So we've got a cobalt volcano here. There's a gold volcano over here on the right. So I do want to take those as well so that we have a good flow of refined metal going. But inside these rooms, it's really going to be kind of simple. All we're really going to need is a station for creating the little power chips. So there we go. Just create something like that. And then we're just going to spam hydrogen generators in here, and we will run some cooling through this room. So just going to look something like this. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time clicking on everything, but yeah. And we're going to keep this room relatively cool, so I'm not worried about adding too many. The problem with this is I can't keep adding generators. So what I should actually do, since we're not going to keep this the entire time, this will be like the max size for a power plant room. And we'll just spam down like 10 of them, sure. We can also add some smart batteries to make sure that these aren't running all the time. But I'm probably going to add them somewhere else. Like that smart batteries on its own is not going to generate a lot of heat. We also need to run power lines in here and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we will need to deconstruct a couple of tiles here just to make sure that we can run the power lines in. But yeah, just something like this. Our cooling is going to be really standard. We just have these loops that we run with the polluted water that's inside these reservoirs. We'll eventually get switched over to our bigger setup here, but yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a holding pattern. These two are a little bit dependent on each other to be able to run. But the fact that we do have this extra cooling over here that I've forgotten about is definitely something that we can use. So yeah, let's get this part built out. We'll get the rest of that big production area cooling setup done. The Saturn Critter Trap area has grown. You can see our density of hydrogen has risen quite a bit too. But I think that we can just extend this all the way down, and I think we're only going to need this one hive for hydrogen production. But yeah. So we'll get kind of the rest of this fleshed out with the cooling and the smart batteries and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just going to take a little while. I'm going to need to keep taking duplicates, so I think I'll check back every single time I need to take one, just so that we can see what it is. But yeah, we'll just keep going along that route. Alright, time to take another duplicate. Let's hope we don't get another bum from our print here. Need somebody that can move. Okay, this is actually quite good, all things considered. Cool. Alright, Nails, get over here. Alright, so that should help out speed us up here a little bit. Progress is still very slow. I'm going to try to close up this bottom area first. So get all the buildings that we need in here so we can close it up, vacuum it out, start getting our steam rolling. But yeah, not a whole lot has changed. I just need more duplicates, and I want to always put that on camera when we take another one. The other colony, I guess, or the other asteroid, kind of having a hard time with reed fiber right now, so I had to send a whole bunch through the teleporter. Should be on its way soon. But yeah, not a whole lot going on, or at least not a whole lot different from last time, because we had to get somebody that was not anemic into our colony, so sorry, Amari, but you're not setting a great standard so far. Okay, our expansion project of our Saturn Critter Traps is pretty much done. So we have a lot more traps in here, and our hydrogen is just going to go nuts after this. One achievement that we could get really quickly is while there's no betas around, we could just enable auto-harvest of one of these. Set it up kind of high, and if none of my duplicates get stung when they go to harvest this, then we will get an achievement. So here we go. Be scooping it all out. There you go. And there's the achievement. So let's wait for it to load. And yeah, sweeter than honey. There you go. And this, what is the UI doing? Knock it off. All right, there we go. All right, so yeah, we've got that. That will put us at a number that I don't remember off the top of my head now, but it will certainly show up in editing. So there you go. Got this all done. So yeah, just gonna kind of sit here and wait. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was this water warming setup. So basically, we're gonna have a lot of sources of water that are very cold that we need to warm up before we allow to go into any other systems. So what you can see coming in here is all the excess of water that was inside our Saturn Critter Trap setup, and it's too warm for our setup right now. And yes, -1 is too warm. But when it's coming out of there, we send it out when it's supposed to be anywhere above -4. So it's going to come up here and it'll exchange its temperature with water that's sitting in here. And for right now, because this has been dormant for so long, I just filled it up with some hot, or rather more like warm, regular water. Because there was a whole bunch that came out of this steam vent. Or cool steam vent, I guess. They say cool steam, but steam isn't really cool by nature. So you basically will just run some pipes through here, and on the last couple pipes, they're made out of radiant pipes, so they exchange their temperature really fast. And if any of this water is ever above 15C, the system is going to let it through. The other thing is we need to consistently pump this water out. So the piping that we have is the top one is for any of the excess water from the setup for Saturn critter traps. Any water from here gets pumped out from this pump and sent into the second one, and if it's ever anywhere below 25, then I'm going to let it through. And then I have 2 more, because we effectively have 2 more sources that we could send through here to be warmed. One of which that we haven't taken is this cool salt slush geyser. And the second is if this one starts to get too full. I know we want to save most of this for the Saturn critter traps, especially if it's dormant like it is now. But when it's not, if it's going to erupt, I'd rather have the excess than just, like, prevent it from happening. So you can just kind of run that through there as well, and then we'll have a nice, robust system for polluted water, which will all kind of gather down here. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. We're probably going to be setting up a couple of these. I do want to set up another one of these over here. Just a simple water warming setup for any of the cool slush geysers that we have, which is a really good problem to have. So we'll eventually hook this all up. I am just going to set up a temporary system to warm, or rather cool and warm the water down here, since this all kind of turned into a bunch of mush, like useless water, because of its temperature. So I will do the same thing with this to make sure that it can be either warmed up or cooled down to an acceptable temperature for our blossoms. What are you doing? Why are you starving? You have to breathe? Ah, that's pathetic. So our setup that we have here is running. So we have one of our aqua tuners running and a whole bunch more still pending. But once the aqua tuner boils, we will be ready to start running some jobs with these metal refineries and glass forges. And we'll kind of see how putting the heat into this matters. So we're going to finish this up, and then I think we're going to start all of our food setups, because I wanted to get a whole bunch of food setups ready to go that are being irradiated to start creating the seeds to make progress towards the GMO achievement. So yeah, also waiting for a hydrogen setup to be finished. It's almost done. But it's pretty much already what we've seen on the other side. It's just a lot bigger. So pretty simple setup here. Power control station, a couple of hydrogen generators, and a smart battery, and that's pretty much it. So that will start kicking in here in just a minute, but also in a good time for my power usage that's going to spike after we start running jobs for metal refineries and glass forges and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll get those all settled, and then we will start talking about the setup that's down here once we have some steam. Alright, one side project that we should probably keep up with is taming the rest of the critters that are on our list as well. I haven't highlighted it every time it's happened, but we are making some real progress in getting every single type of creature tamed. So, like, behind the scenes, I got a shovel, I got a poke shell, a bunch of random stuff on the first asteroid and tame them. But I figured before we went all the way to the Gassimu, we might as well talk about the Pacus. So these ones, you just really need to feed them in order to tame them. And you can just feed them some excess seeds that you have. I don't really need all these bog bucket seeds or like mealwood seeds or anything like that. So I can just use that to tame these Pacus really quick. And then once I get one, delete it, and the fish will eventually die, and I don't really mind that much. So we need to do that. We'll get that done. Also for the puffs, we have a little chamber that it was already trapped in. So I just built a door and then built a grooming station. So we're grooming that one. Looks like this is ready for harvest. Wait, oh, it's set to disable. That was weird. There we go. So now we can just get a little bit more free food. So yeah, just wanted to mention that really quickly, and especially mention the way that you can do this for fish, which is really just feed them, and they will tame themselves. So there you go. Yeah, anyway, just wanted to mention that. Alright, we are ready to effectively be able to produce as much refined metal as we want and not be limited by coolant. So let's hook this up. So I have a tank here that's full of oil, and it is sitting inside the steam, obviously made out of steel so it doesn't overheat. Then all we need to do is just disconnect a couple lines and reconnect a couple other ones, and it should start flowing, and should go up into our metal refinery. And the check that we're doing is to make sure that it's below 180 C. If it is, it'll head up into the metal refinery, and all the points that are these insulated pipes are going to be made out of ceramic, just to minimize the amount of temperature that is going to be transferred. So once it gets up here, this will obviously heat it up a bunch, and then it'll be sent back down to the tank, and it will just kind of sit in the steam for as long as it can, until it can give off all of its heat back into the steam and get down below that 180 again. So that is the idea with this. We can now basically produce as much as we want. So we really just need iron. So I can start going out and start mining a bunch of iron ore here. There's a bunch of huge pockets that we could get to get our steel production up. And I'd really like to get our steel production up just so we can start getting aquatuners and stuff like that on the other asteroids so we can finish capturing these volcanoes. Once we get to that point, I think we'll be ready to start all of our different seed mutating farms, which is going to be kind of the main thing that we're building up to. Oh, also the fact that we have all this extra power production means that we can run all these buildings, plus some other stuff that we're going to add here in just a little bit too. So we can also add glass if we want to now. So if I want to make, I don't know, sure, 80 things of glass, it's just going to flow down this pipe and land inside the steam, which then the glass will give all of its heat off to the steam, have to be below, again, that 180 mark. Then it'll head up back through the ethanol that's up here to make sure that it gets cooled down to a temperature that my base likes. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, is just to put as much heat as possible into the steam, but also my duplicants can just work in here without needing to get into suits or anything like that, just because it'll be nice and temperature controlled, and most of the heat that these buildings generate will be put down into the steam anyway, so kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, so on the other asteroid, we are working on taking another metal volcano. There is another cobalt volcano down here as well, which I need to get rid of this water first before we get that. So we've got a couple of those smaller projects going on. I'm also going to take this hot polluted oxygen vent just so I can ranch puffs, just so that we have enough recurring slime to do some of the mutation stuff here. Probably going to do some of it here and some of it on the main asteroid. It'd be nice and a lot cooler to have it all in one place. I just don't know if I'm going to have the resources to do all that. I guess actually what we could do... Let me think about this. No, we're already sending hydrogen back through. I was just thinking about, could we just send this polluted oxygen through the teleporter and do it over there? But I feel like we'd just be going out of our way to do something silly for that. So I don't think I'm going to do that. Let's just have some of it here. Maybe just a couple different mutation setups here. And we'll do most of the mutation setups on the other asteroid. So let me get the rest of this all built out and settled a little bit, and then we'll get started on building some of the more complicated ones. There's going to be easy ones, there's going to be harder ones. We'll take a look at the list and we'll start getting them all set up here in just a bit. Okay, a little progress update here. Let's take another duplicant, by the way. Alright, Bert, looks like you're coming in. This is actually not too bad. I just need to make sure to put him on a good schedule, so... Welcome to the team. We're almost at that 20, and I think we're going to hit those 20 in this video, because we do have a lot of food production. Our oxygen's very stable, so I'm not worried about it. Let's make sure to put Bert on the right schedule here. There we go. You're on the night shift. I think these are pretty much... not really. Guess we could move one more person. There we go. Pretty even. Alright, so... Progress update here. These setups are ready to go, and the instant that I got them ready to go, the gold volcano went dormant, so that's not great. The hot polluted oxygen vent, we'll talk about in a little bit when we talk about ranching puffs so that we can grow the mushrooms here. But for right now, the quick, super fast overview is just this will come out very hot. I need to find a way to cool it down, so I'm going to cool it down with some water / steam here. Steam turbine is going to basically control the temperature of everything. Then we're going to pump it through our cold ethanol whenever it is cool enough to be worth doing that, so that we're not pumping out the like 500 degree polluted oxygen. It'll be down around 180 or so once again. So yeah, that's going to be the plan. Got another volcano coming up down here, so we're going to capture this cobalt volcano. We'll also capture this gold volcano over here in addition to it, but they're all the same setup, so I'm not going to go through the same setup every time. They're pretty much, the idea is really just the steam turbine is going to keep a handle on the steam down here. All of the heat from the metal is going to be put into the steam so that we get a nice bit of heat deletion going on with the steam turbine, and then a cool pool of ethanol with an aqua tuner next to it. So yeah, we're going to build this setup a few times, so I'm not going to go over it every time, just because that's just something we need to do to support the rest of what we're doing. So, we'll also talk about the water regulators. I have one going on here that I did talk about just a little bit, but it'll be more important for when we get to the other types of food. Creating a second water regulator here as well, with just a water geyser. Man, this is a really tongue-twistery section, but we're powering through it. The only thing that I need before we get started on some of the more complicated ones is I need this space available so I can use this aqua tuner for a couple of the types of food that require a really low temperature. Let's just jump through these really quickly just so we can see what's on the board, and I'll kind of talk about the plan as far as how we're going to attack this. So, GMO A-OK is what we're looking for. Okay, let's go through these one by one, really. Thimble Reeds, those are super easy to grow. Barely even need to pay attention to it. Dust Caps is what we're going to be using the puffs for because they require slime as their food. Bristle Blossoms, we're already growing. We actually do have mutants already, so we could check that off. The Salt Vines, we're going to need kind of special setup for. They do take sand. They have to live in chlorine, so yeah, we'll have to talk about that one when they get there. Water Weeds, we're going to need probably on the second asteroid. We're going to also probably want the special type of puffs that are going to help us create the bleachstone for it. We may have enough bleachstone to get away with just not producing it, because we don't have a consistent source of chlorine, but if we need one, we can also burn our rust and turn that into the excess chlorine, so we could do that too. Pinch of peppers, we will get on those. We just need to heat up some polluted water for that. Bog buckets, we're already growing. We could just throw a couple of Wheezeworts inside there. Balm lilies are also, they don't need anything. They'll just grow for free. We don't really need to care about that. Spindly grubfruit, we've already been growing that. We just need to set those back up again and not let the grubs rub up against them to turn them into a different type of plant. These two are the more complicated ones, the sleet wheat and the Nosh sprout, because they're going to require a really cold setup. So our plan here is going to be to clear out that space, and we will create a specific setup just for the sleet wheat and the Nosh beans, just to get those things going. And we'll start growing those and hopefully mutate those within the first pass. But if not, we're going to have a lot of different types of food. So our food setup is really going to change a lot in this video. But yeah, just need to clear this out first and then we'll get those going. Okay, let's take number 20. Okay, not too mad at it, but hello, Harold. And there we go, there's our achievement, which we can check off now. There we go. No place like clone. Got it. Alright. Still working towards getting those setups ready. We'll be ready here in a bit. Okay. Our little area for Nosh beans and sleet wheat is ready. So let's get started building this out really quickly. So first of all, we're going to put both of them in carbon dioxide just because it's already here and because the Nosh bean actually requires it. So we're going to start off by expecting a handful of suits to be here. I think 4 is probably fine, so we'll just do something like that. Then we need a liquid lock, which we should probably start building out of insulated tiles. So just something like this. Fill in all the rest of them, I guess, just to make it look better. And then the rest of this is just going to be all the space for the actual farms themselves. We're going to build both of them next to each other, but they both have slightly different requirements for temperature. But they will both need to be very cold. So we will need to set something up down here first that's going to contain all of the liquid that we're going to use to transfer energy from one side to the other. So we're going to keep this pool of liquid very cold. So I'm just going to line the top of this with some metal tiles. And the bottom, we're just going to have the same type of thing that we've had before with just a cycling setup of polluted water. We could potentially use ethanol for this, but we don't need it to get that cold. If we look at what the requirements are, Sleet wheat has a temperature range of -55 to 5, and Nosh beans will do, I think it's like -50 to 0, -25 to 0. So since the Nosh beans need to be colder, we'll probably have them sitting closer to where the actual cooling is happening. And then the Sleet wheat can kind of sit over here on the side. But we can put them both in the same place. They just need slightly different things to feed them in order to make them grow. So let's get this first part set up where we just have a big pool of cold ethanol. And I'm actually going to drain the this because this is already pretty cold, but we're not really going to use this setup anymore. So I'm going to drain this and run all the contents down into this chamber. We just need to get it up to the point where it touches these metal tiles so that we can control the temperature of the top half as well. So I will get the rest of this stuff all built out here really quickly. Let me put up the Atmos suit dock. There we go. Something like this. So yeah, let's build this out really quickly, and we'll get to the next phase that we start explaining about how to get the plants in there. Okay, first phase I think is ready. Now let's actually set up the part where we start planting and growing the food. So on the left, we're going to do the Nosh beans. On the right, we're going to do the Sleet wheat. They do need to be at little different temperatures than one another. So what we're going to do is a setup that will basically allow each side to control its own temperature by how much it touches this ethanol. By the way, we do need to fill this up with polluted water and set it up so that it is as low of a temperature as possible. So it looks like this line is where we can actually get something running in here. So we'll just kind of fill that up with some lines of polluted water that we already have. Let me actually disconnect this because I don't want it flowing up to where it's going right now, which is into our food supply, which is ironic. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a line of mechanized airlocks here. We ideally want to use something that has a pretty good thermal conductivity, so I'm just going to build a few of them out of different materials to see which ones are better. I'm pretty sure aluminum is one of the better ones. Yeah, 20. That one's terrible. Copper. Wolframite's pretty good. That one's not great. Okay, let's do it out of aluminum. So we want to throw down some doors here made out of aluminum, and these doors are just going to open and close whenever we want to conduct I guess like heat transfer between the top and the bottom so that we don't get things too cold or we don't let things get too warm. This will be a good way to make sure that each side can pick how warm that it wants to be and we don't wind up freezing our setups or anything like that. Really nice to have duplicates here helping us out while we're doing this. So there we go. So something like this. When the duplicates build that, we will just put a layer of hydroponic farm tiles on the top, except for a couple of just regular farm tiles, which is where the Wheezeworts are going to go, that are going to be used for the radiation to actually mutate these things. So a couple farm tiles here, but we also need to worry about what kind of things these two plants are going to need in order to grow. Sleet wheat is just going to need water and dirt, but the Nosh beans actually need ethanol, so we need to make sure we're continuing to produce ethanol since we are kind of running out of the last little bits that we have. But we will send the ethanol into this liquid reservoir so that it can be cooled enough before it gets sent up to the actual food. And we can also store it just to make sure that we have enough throughout the whole process. So if we just do something like this, we make them out of radiant pipes. And by the time they get up here, we can make sure that we have them all in insulated pipes. We can actually use ceramic, because we have a good amount of ceramic. And this will hopefully influence the temperature of these to a minimal degree. So, yeah, we'll do something like this. Actually, we will probably eventually close up this part. Let me move where this is to more of the center. So we have 3 on each side, and then I think there's 3 on each side over here. Yeah, okay. On the right side, we're just going to need some regular water, and as long as we feed it cold enough water and then leave enough, like, cooling around it, then I think we'll be fine. So, yeah, let's do that. On this right side is where all the sleet wheat is going to go, so just something like this. And just regular water is all we need. If we send it through this, it'll wind up freezing, or at least we risk that, so I don't want to do that. So yeah, this is kind of phase 2 of it. Let's let my duplicants catch up, and then we'll keep going and get the rest of it up. Alright, I think we're finally ready to get these seeds planted. I do think we may be able to get this tuned just right so that we don't need to micromanage stuff with the doors, with them opening and closing. I think we might be able to do it without that. But for both of these, they're going to take a couple of resources. Let's actually get the seeds out first. So in the other base, I have been collecting these seeds just so that we have enough of them to plant. So let's go ahead and get these dug up here really quickly. Set them to really low priority so my duplicants would leave them alone and stop bringing dirt and stuff to them. But once they get them, we will get them sent over this way. And then all we need in each of these rooms are a couple of auto sweepers just to load in the supplies, and then we can add some conveyor receptacles for each type of thing that's going to be needed in each room. So we need phosphorite, and we need dirt in each room. They are also piped with the water and the ethanol that they need. So I'm just going to see if this is going to hold steady enough to make this actually work. I think we can do it. It's going to be... I think it'll hold. I think we'll be fine. So once we get those all dug up, it's not really a great way to do this other than to, like, put down a replacement refrigerator and just ask for the stuff there. So I'll put it down there, and then my duplicants will bring it to this refrigerator. Then I'm going to mark a conveyor loader for the things that I want to be sent out. So we can send the Nosh bean and the sleet wheat grain. We can send it at a really high priority, so it should take it from this refrigerator and toss it in the conveyor loader so we can get it planted. Right. Are you going to wake up? Reset. There we go. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get those planted and make sure that they work. And then we'll start getting the stuff shipped in here, and I think it should hold, but once those start getting up, and we also have our Weezeworts in here, by the way. Once they start getting up, I think we'll see some progress. The next two I want to focus on. I was talking about ranching puffs, but I want to see if we have enough slime and bleachstone to be able to not do that. So what I'm going to try, let's try to build a couple setups here, preferably down in the carbon dioxide for the mushrooms, since that's what they need. It looks like there's a lot over here already that's not really going anywhere. So we'll take advantage of that. First of all, we need... what am I doing? First of all, we need... What am I doing? Okay, there we go, farm tile. We need just a handful of these for the mushrooms. Let's do... I don't know, we could do the same amount as on the other side, too. Let's just do 7. The middle one will be another Weezewort, and then the outside will just be these farm tiles. And then the slime, which is what they're going to use, I already have a whole bunch of it collected, and there's still a whole bunch more to mine out. So if I can get away with not needing to ranch puffs, then I will do that, because I don't really want to set up that much infrastructure just for this one achievement if I don't have to. Unless it's for something like this, because we have no choice. We have to do something like this in order to get this to grow correctly. By the way, let's get these all planted. There we go. Some Nosh beans. Some sleet wheat. Yeah. So my duplicants ought to get on that, get those planted here in just a bit. So yeah, for this one, we should be able to get plenty of fungal spores. I think we've dug up a whole bunch of them already. As I see... Okay, here we go. I was looking for the picture of the seed, and I didn't see it, so there you go. So those ones I think we should be fine. The bleachstone will be interesting. We're going to need a couple little bits of infrastructure for that. First of all, we want to create a place that our duplicants can't really walk, but can still reach. So I think what I'm going to do is something like this, where you kind of just build a wall, and then I'm going to make sure that my duplicants can actually reach. We'll create the extra tile here in just a bit, but I want to make sure they can still reach it, but don't need to get all wet when they're working with it. So the water weeds are going to need... these types of tiles, hydroponic farm tiles, so that we can send salt water in there. And then we can just grab the salt water from this geyser, because it's going to be putting it out at a temperature that's going to be rather high. A lot of the salt water that's coming out of here is already kind of chilled because it's in our like water system. So the water weeds themselves have a minimum temperature, I think, of around 22. So as long as we stay around there, which we should based upon how that's getting pumped out, I think we should be fine. Yeah, so fertilization is going to take bleach stone and salt water, so we'll get something set up for that. I just need to filter stuff coming off of this line to grab salt water, and I will stop this just so that I'm not wasting it for the time being. And then we'll steal some of it, and it'll go into a system over here. We could probably create a small tank for salt water just so that we have plenty as a backup. Or we could just create the... I forget what they're called because I don't know the name of anything. We could create some liquid reservoirs to hold salt water for us. So something like this, pretty straightforward. These ones are just going to get slimed, just like they're on Nickelodeon. We'll plant that. We will get a fungal spore in here as well. And yeah, we'll get those mutating also. So yeah, let's just kind of see how these 4 setups go, because these are some of the more complicated ones, assuming that we need to get into puffs. These might take a bit for me to get all the infrastructure up. I may actually... I'm just so low on metals, I don't think I can afford to run something all the way from up here. So I may just set up some like manual bins or something like that to ask for these resources in the meantime. So yeah, let's let this run for just a bit, and let's get all this other stuff set up really quickly. And then we will see if these are successful, and if so, we're going to move on to try to get some other plants mutated while we're at it. So yeah, we'll be back. Okay, let's get our water weeds planted really quick, and we will set up the rest of this. The thing that I need to check is I need to see if we can put a thin layer of salt water down, and if this wheezewort will be upset by that. Because these need to be in an atmosphere of salt water. And I think if we just set it up like this, it should be okay, because this will still work. At least it'll still put out the radiation that we're looking for, which really is all that kind of matters. So I think that should be fine. Once this can kind of drift over here, we need to get this little bit of carbon dioxide out of the way. So there we go. To get salt water, we are getting a mixture of regular water and salt water off this line, so we're using the typical combination of an element sensor, followed up immediately by a gas shutoff, or sorry, a liquid shutoff that's just going to steal it from the line and send it over this way if we can use it. So we've got that. We are sending in, or my duplicants at least will bring the... Why do I forget what this is called? Bleachstone. And they will load it in there. If you can rely on anything with any of my videos, you will know that I don't know the names of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, there you go. So I don't want my duplicants to be walking in the water all the time, so once they get this in here, I will put the extra tiles up to stop them. So there we go. Let's check our list and see where we stand in terms of everything getting on here. Who's starving? Bert, hurry up and catch your breath. Go get some food. Alright, so let's see. Let's go to here, let's check our list, see where we're at. We could get a couple of easy ones. So Thimble Reeds. We could use some of the polluted water that we have in both of the places, honestly, to grow these and mutate them. Probably do that in the main one. So let's target Thimble Reeds, and let's target... We already have Bristle Blossoms. What's an easy one? Balm Lilies. Let's do those. Alright, so let's go back to the main base. And we can set up something really quick for this. We just need some warmer polluted water for this, and it looks like this should be totally fine. So let's do this. Let me disconnect it from the original line so we're not sending it out anywhere that we don't want it. And then this is just going to be to grow Thimble Reeds. So some warmer polluted water. Let me check the temperature of this actually. Do I still have any up in this colony? I don't remember. I think there's some... No, I think I dug all those up. Yeah. Alright, here's a seed for it. Thimble Reed, what's the temperatures we gotta work with? Yeah, 22 to 37. So this might actually even still be a little warm still. What is this at? 39. Okay, so let's do this. Once we can hook the rest of this up, it'll be putting out polluted water that we can guarantee is within those ranges. So we can hook up a different setup for this. That'll basically be similar to all of our water regulators and that kind of stuff. But I'll just set up something like, I don't know, right here, just to grow these Thimble Reeds. And the balm lilies are even easier. The balm lilies literally don't require anything. So I can set those up anywhere, and it doesn't really matter. I guess we could just throw them right here if we wanted to. Actually, let me cancel this. Let me put this in a little bit more central location. So we could put the balm lilies and we could put the reed fibers both right here. So we'll set up something like this. And where's an even level for it? Let's do that for the reed fibers. And let's do this for the balm lilies. 3, 4, 5. There. And we will just kind of set all this stuff up on the side. We'll get the right water and all that stuff routed from the bottom. Yeah, so they'll just magically appear here. Alright. Silly me forgot that balm lilies are supposed to be sitting in chlorine in order to grow. So we can't just plant them out here like that. What am I doing? So what I'm going to do instead, let's create a setup that borders this room. This room was just for my ethanol distillers. It's going to be very hot. But what we can do is we can take advantage of that by connecting our balm lilies to it and connecting our peppers to it, which we haven't started yet. But we can take advantage of this heat because those two types still need to be pretty warm. So let's set something up. The max temperature on these balm lilies, I'm pretty sure, is 85. Yeah. And the air down here should probably settle around 80 or so. Plus, we'll be cooling it down with a couple of things by wanting things to be warmed up. So I think all we should need to do is something like this. And then we can create a liquid lock here. I'll get rid of this because we don't really need it anymore. Get it out of there. So if we create a little liquid lock, whoops, we can put a couple of suits here and just fill up this little room with some chlorine, which we should have been storing because of our ventilation system. So we do have some that we can go ahead and drop in here. And then we can throw the balm lilies in there as well. The other thing that we can do, if I prevent my duplicates from coming in here, that'll be nice because it's super overpressurized because of all the carbon dioxide that's in there. But what we could do is from the bottom, for our peppers, we could just set up something like this. Those ladders are just so they can reach the top and actually put something there. But our peppers, they need to grow upside down, so we can go like that, turn them upside down, and can just put them like this. And then our Weezewort could just chill like right here, which we just need a regular farm tile. There. Then I guess, yeah, we'll just do something like the peppers. I'm pretty sure it can just be in regular oxygen. Let me double check this really quick. What do you like? Oh, it doesn't even care. It's just anything just at a certain pressure. Okay, so cool. That'll take care of our peppers and our balm lilies, so we'll get those. Let's get our bin set up for these two things because we need phosphorite and dirt to be regularly supplied, but the easiest way to do this is just to give it a whole bunch and then just put one auto sweeper that can reload these bins over and over. So if we just do something like this to power everything, we'll set this one for, let's see, it's in agriculture, right? Yeah, okay, phosphorite, and then cultivable soil for the other one, dirt. There we go. And then once we have our duplicates load up all these bins, we can just have these at a little bit higher priority. We can have them not for manual use, so our duplicates will just take huge batches of them, and then it'll continuously load it over time. Then our duplicates shouldn't have to go in here anymore. So I could create something to like ban them from going in, but I'd have to remember to turn it off, because they still need to go in there to harvest it. So there you go. Here's our balm lilies. Here's our peppers. We'll get those things all filled up. Alright, I think we're about ready to get everything hooked up here. Top room has been vacuumed out entirely, so we can go ahead and plant our balm lilies in here. So we could put in our wort seeds. We'll wait for my duplicates to come get rid of this gas pump. Put the wort seed down here, plant our peppers. Our peppers are also going to need phosphorite, so we need to ask for a good amount of it. I don't want to fill up the whole bin because it'll probably just take it from my other stash that I have sitting over here. So I'm going to take about half of it. This is also going to be set for phosphorite because that's what peppers need in order to grow. In addition to the polluted water. Where are all the pepper seeds? There we go. So we'll plant our peppers here. we're probably going to need to do something fun with these eventually, because you can't really use them with anything other than the really fancy, like, oven that you can put down. So we will get something going with that, too. Let's get our Balm Lillies. There we go. And there's also one more thing that we could put in this room that requires chlorine, which is these Dasha salt vines. We'll build that out here in just a second. We need to get our last part up here, which is going to be our Thimble Reeds. Let's get these up. Where are they? There they are. There. So we'll get all those planted. That ought to check off quite a few things. Let's get this achievement cleared really quickly, and then we can see what else we need. There we go. Finely tuned machine. We've done 100 tune-ups on power generators, which is what we set up in the last video. We could probably get rid of those stations now. I don't really... Well, I mean, I guess the refined metal's free. It just takes duplicate time. I don't know. We're not really having any power problems right now, so we'll think about it. All right, let's see what else we need for this. GMO A-OK. We have Thimble Reeds. We do not have gas grass. That'll be a while before we have access to that. We have dust caps. We do not have Dasha salt vines. We'll get those planted in a second. We have water weeds. We have peppers. We do not have our bog buckets set up to be irradiated yet. We'll go back and do that in a second. We do have balm lilies. We need spindly grubfruit plants back. We just need more sulfur for that. So we could get that one set up really quickly here. We already have the infrastructure for it. So I could just throw in wart seed right here. I'm actually out of them on this asteroid, so I'm having to go down into the very bottom to grab a few seeds. So there's one here and one here that we have access to, or at least will very soon. So we're going to need to grab those, but yeah, we'll get the spindly grub fruits up here, and we've already turned off the critter station so that we won't get any more. So there we go. I guess we could just go ahead and plant these. I don't see why not. Where is it? Grubfruit seed. Yeah, I just got to kind of leave these alone. I guess the seeds will still drop. I actually need to see the drop rates and see if it's more effective to have a critter in here or not. So that might not do exactly what I was saying. So there we go. All right, let's get these Dasha salt vines in here as well. As far as I understand, they will consume the chlorine atmosphere. So we do have a vent that is going to be venting in chlorine constantly. And for the salt vines, they do grow upside down. Let's put these in here really quickly. And they do require sand. So I'll have to put them like this, but I do want to add a space here that can be reserved for the auto sweepers so that it can load the sand for me and I don't need to constantly have duplicates come in here and load it by hand. So I'm going to just put these up here and we'll create an airtight seal for them. Whoops. And then when that's all done, my duplicates can come back in here and delete these tiles. We might need to uproot these balm lilies for a second while we do that, but I think we get the idea. So yeah, we'll need a couple of bins here too. So we'll need that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, that should be plenty. Okay, cool. So we'll get all that set up here as well once we get it. So got those up. We just need our bog buckets. We need to put the wheezeworts next to them. So we're already growing a whole bunch of them, so don't really need to worry too much about that. I'll just like deconstruct this tile and deconstruct this tile. Throw in some farm tiles. We could probably even throw an extra wheezewort in here just to try to speed up the process a little bit. So we can get those replaced. It shouldn't be too big of a deal. The only other thing that I'm a little bit worried about is how much bleachstone we have. It's going kind of quick, so if we happen to get an irradiated seed before then, that'd be great. If not, we can create a bleachstone hopper, which is just going to take salt and gold. And we have we have 2 gold volcanoes right now, so that shouldn't be any shortage of that. So that should be fine. We'll kind of see how this goes in the next little bit. We'll get the rest of these planted, and then we'll kind of run some inventory and see where we stand. And then I think call this video good, because we'll have planted pretty much everything we possibly can thus far. Actually, what we're going to need is another one in the middle here. I guess here? Probably put this on either side. I don't know where this is going to be able to reach. We're going to have to think about how to irradiate these now that I'm looking at this again. We'll figure it out. Okay. Yeah, so let's get the rest of this stuff built out. We'll get my duplicates to plant this. I'll get this, like, reshaped. And then I think we'll be good. So I'll be right back. Let's plant the last ones that we need in order to get everything that we at least have access to right now. We're waiting for the salt vine seeds to be sent from the other asteroid, so once they get here, there we go. Go ahead and get them planted real quick. And these also need sand, so we can, once these get planted, we can delete the ladders. We can throw in some auto sweepers so that they can get automatically loaded with sand. And then on the outside, we can just set something up like we've done a few times before now, just an automated little place here to load up our sand, but only have our duplicants take it there in a really big batch instead of a little bit at a time. So there we go, just something like that. I can hook up the rest of that, we've seen it enough times, but there you go. Quick little tour on growing basically every plant in the game. So here's 3 of them here. Here's our Thimble Reeds. Here's the 2 most complicated ones, our Nosh sprouts and Sleet wheats. So there you go. Spindly Grubfruit here. We've already grown mealwood before, but here's some of it right now. Bristle blossoms, we already have the mutants for those. We don't necessarily need that. And then on the other asteroid, as soon as the game will let me change over to the other one, after it courteously auto-saves for me, we have our water weeds, which look like they're... I think it's just the lettuce that's getting stale. I need to spec my fridge for all this new stuff that's coming in, too. Oh, it's full. Well, we have too much food. That's another problem to deal with. Oh, we also need wart seeds over here, too. I'll have to send some to myself to get those ready to mutate. Here's our mushrooms. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We can just run through the list here really quickly to make sure that we have them all. So Thimbleweed, yes, yes. Mealwood, no gas grass. We will get that eventually. Yes, yes, yes. Waterweed, peppers, bog buckets, balm lilies, grubfruit plants, sleet wheat, and nosh sprout. Okay, cool. We have them all ready to go, and they will start slowly producing mutated seeds. The last thing I think we should do is we should make like a big deluxe kitchen for this video so we can actually cook all the food that we're making. I don't even think we're using our egg cracker anymore because there's not really anything left to crack. So here we go. Just build this out really fast. We want a fridge, actually, on the left side so our duplicants can grab food. Probably want one of those. Let's go ahead and grab a gas range so we can cook some of the more fancy stuff. Put a micro musher in the middle. We might need to leave a space to get all the stuff in that we need, like lights and shipping stuff. But yeah, so there we go. We'll kind of get this started. The last thing that we also need is we need a... We might actually be able to get this all with one light. Maybe. Let's see if that works. Last thing we need is natural gas for this. So I'm just going to start setting up something to capture one of these natural gas geysers, and we're only going to be using it for cooking food. We will not be using this for power, since we are banned from doing so. So yeah, let's get this last little part done, and then I think we'll call this video good. Alright, I think we are finally ready to close out this monster of an episode. I'm guessing that the future ones will not be as long as this one, because this one is a beast. Ideally, I'd like to keep them around like 35 minutes, but I guess we're getting 2 episodes today. They're just stitched as one video, so there you go. Alright, let's get our kitchen all done here. So this kitchen, we don't really need anymore. We'll kind of deprecate as we get down there. So yeah, we still want gristleberries, but I want to actually talk about priorities a little bit. Considering this is going to be more efficient food in general, and just better quality, I'd rather have this be a little bit higher priority than everything. I do want this berry sludge the most, though. If we have berry sludge at all, I want this to be made in as big a batches as possible, because this is like one of the best foods in the game, especially for rocket travel, because it never goes bad. The tofu is fine, I guess. We might need to set up some different storage rules for all this stuff, just so my duplicants don't spend that much time running back and forth. We can also think about, like, how are we spending each of our resources? So if we do have gristleberries, it would be nice to turn them into stuff berries just to get the extra morale bonus and a little bit of extra calories here. The peppers are not that great, but I guess since we have them, we might as well use them. I guess we should use them here too. I don't see why not. The frost burgers I don't think I'm going to do, only because they require the frost buns, and they really are a waste of sleet wheat compared to everything else you could make. Same thing with the pie. Yeah. I guess surf and turf we're not really going to be getting. Mushrooms are on the other asteroid. So yeah, it looks like spicy tofu and stuffed berry, what we're doing in the oven here. And this one is powered by natural gas, so we do have it all set up here. Since I am clearing out the bigger section first, I just have a pump on this outer area, and then the inner, that's going to be the more long-term one, needs a gas pump that's made out of steel and hooked up to an Atmo sensor. So we'll just kind of toss that in there. If it's ever above a certain threshold, just to make sure it's actually worth pumping, then we'll pump it out. But for right now, and until we get this whole area cleared, I did wall the bottom of it off so that it's only natural gas in this, and eventually this will all get sucked out. Then we can open up the rest of this a little bit better. So, yeah, got that. The rest of these, for our grill, I don't know that there's really that much. I guess the grubfruit nuts we can definitely do, because we'll be growing those. Barbecue for sure if we ever get any meat. How do we have pacu fillets here? I didn't even think there were really any of them here, but I guess we'll cook it. Definitely not going to do the frost buns for sure. But I think the rest of this is probably good. We're not growing the rest of the stuff that's needed here, so that should be fine. And I'll deal with all the refrigerator settings and everything else off camera, only because it's kind of a little bit of not very interesting nuance to just be checking boxes here, or I guess not checking them in some cases. So I generally try to keep anything that's not cooked down in this area. So obvious stuff is like meat, pacu fillets, that kind of stuff. Same thing with the refrigerator, but yeah. And then we can get rid of this one. We can make a new room here. We need to reconnect up our shipping lines, but yeah, I can do that off camera, but I think you kind of get the idea. The rest of this we can deconstruct and kind of move everything over, but I definitely want the more complicated foods to be higher priority. So if I do get stuff for berry sludge, I definitely want it to make that before, say, like stuffed berries or something like that. The pepper bread I'm not going to do, only because I'd rather have the berry sludge with the sleet wheat that we were growing. So there we go. Whole bunch of different food types and a whole bunch of different setups for it. I'm pretty sure they are all running by now. The only thing that's been a little bit of a challenge is we don't really have enough chlorine to keep these salt vines going. I tried to throw in some bleach stone. We will get access to more chlorine when we mine out the bottom of the map. But this might just need like a chlorine vent or a constant supply of it. We also may need to do a bleach stone hopper on this asteroid. So I guess if we do, I'll just update in later videos. But yeah, what a beast of a video. Thank you for hanging out while we got all this wild stuff done in this video. But yeah, I appreciate it. I'll be back with another episode here. Hopefully they'll be a little bit more manageable in size and scope. But this achievement was definitely a big one, and we got some progress going toward it for sure. Now it's just a matter of time before it produces the mutant seeds that we want. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back soon. Alright, see you later.